When you start living with the end in mind, everything starts to change. What are people going to say about you? What message is your life going to speak when you're long gone? Because you weren't born by accident. You didn't just happen to be where you're at and happen to watch this video. There is always a reason.
Yeah, it doesn't. We got a few people on already.
I'm loving the baby crying. That's amazing.
Man, this mic is powerful.
It is. It's it's not a bad thing, and by no means, it's just more of like the sound. I remember those days. Like I'm looking forward to grandchildren in like 15 years. Like not anytime soon. But you keep having the babies. I'm probably like my guess is we're like at least maybe 10 to 15 away. If it's 15 years, my son will be 30. If it's 10 years, I'll be 25. And then even if it's like 15, then my twins would be 25. Yeah, they're only 5 years behind. It's like 15. Let's see if 15s feel safe.
Yeah.
15 feels safe. Yeah, because I don't need my kids having kids just yet anytime soon. But it's weird if you think about it, because as older they are right now, like could the 10 years has gone by like that, and then like that much time, that could be a baby out of one of them. Oh, weird.
That is crazy. That's crazy.
Weird. Yeah. Okay, let's stop talking about
that. I'm just sending a note to our admin person to send you the link, and that way you have the link if you send anything.
So, Kaylin Brown says hi, Joey and Anthony.
Yeah.
Adrian Apicatoa, what's up, guys? Prescott Child, good morning. They're all on your side of the world.
Yeah.
Right now, hey, you guys are in the future. You're in the future. I'm in the past. I'm 12 o'clock yesterday. Oh, guys, what's it like? Are there flying cars yet?
Future's looking good, man. It's looking good.
There you go.
Where do I send it on? Should you send it on Instagram or to your?
Oh yeah, you can send it on Instagram, and then I'll do something with it. I'll share it if you just send me the link inside of my in the inbox, because we're all on here on the inbox. There it goes. I see the messages. You're here but can't see you.
No, that was
this was before. This was before.
Yeah, that was before. Yeah.
So what's everybody doing this morning? Everybody's at home. You guys are shelter in place too, or no? You guys are out and about.
No, we're locked down, man.
The whole world.
Yep.
The whole world.
So you guys are full lockdown as well?
I'm in California, man. We are like the second worst hit area in the United States. So New York's number one. Number two is California. We're just a bigger state though. Like we're just humongous. We're probably like 4 New Yorks, size wise.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of people. Yeah, no crazy issues. Where we're at, there's only like 30 deaths or something that are in our area, but we're not really, not in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
See? Go watch TV with Tori. He's doing something.
Hey, let me just get this official introduction out of the way for all the audio stuff that we're going to do. So, guys, I just want to welcome you to the Fuse Life podcast, episode number 46. My guest today, I've been following him for a couple of years, and I am all about integrity, all about purpose, all about a good heart. And I've seen this man for the last couple of years and everything that he's doing, and I'm so excited that he's even on here. I didn't realize the reach that he's already had and some of the craziness of his story. So I'm hoping that we'll get to go behind the curtain a little bit, probably in a way that other people have not gone. And I'm really, really excited. So Anthony, thank you so much for being here.
Hey man, very welcome. I'm gonna go to my office because my children, well, one of my children doesn't want to make herself any quieter than she is, because that's how children do. They don't care what dad does. So let me go to my special space. But yeah, man, whatever you want to know, people, you guys are commenting. I like how it allows people to comment. So absolutely anything you guys want to figure out, ask questions, dig in, and let's make some magic happen for the world, my man.
Boom.
And then there was light.
Boom. All right, man. So if we just get into quickly, for those that don't know you, maybe a little bit about where you're at right now in life and who you are, what you're doing, all that.
Yeah, man. So I as a individual love humanity, and that's what I show up to do. And I'll tell the story if everyone wants to know it. I don't got to go deep into it, but I teach people how to upgrade how they operate so they can elevate their life and business. And by operate, it's essentially like the definition of operate is to control the function of a system or an organism or mechanism. And that's how we operate as humans, how we do things without thinking, with thinking. So if you can upgrade how you operate, you're talking about beliefs, thoughts, actions, habits, emotions, ego, mindset, all those things. You can elevate your life and business, which means you can take it to the next level of of peace, joy, income, impact, notoriety, right? All those things, if you understand how to operate a different tick. So that's what I teach people to do, to stretch them so they can do more. This came from a sense of understanding identity. Like, out of all the things I'm talking about, really, when you think about upgrading, it's kind of like if you just simplistically, a computer, which we're on, has software. A phone has software, but there's also hardware. We are the hardware. We can only run as efficiently as the software, the identity of who we are. And so that's the area where I live into work. And so for me, what I love to do is teach people these areas, educate them on how they're working without even knowing it. But it comes because that's my life story. Like it's always, I call the message and the messenger. I am the messenger because I'm passionate and I love what I do. But if I had the wrong message, it wouldn't work. If I was telling you how to make, water bottles, you'd be like, I don't know if that's the guy for water bottle mastery, right? For me, it starts way back at 3 years old. I've always struggled with identity, right? It's always been that unique thing. And we all kind of do. But for me, like I was given away at 3 years old in the foster care by my real mom. It's like, who am I? Where do I fit? I bounced around in a system that starved me and beat me and tortured me by some really heinous people. And then 3 years, it was only 3 years. I ended up at 6 years old in a family, which is my family still to this day. But a lot of dynamic stuff. Like I'm the only Black kid in an all white family. So weird identity thing. Still a foster kid, very poor. Fast forward 8 years of crazy with my biological mom, my foster parents, and never knowing if I was going to be there and stable. 14 years old, I finally got adopted. So I had for this first time in my life, I knew that this house that I woke up in, I get to go to sleep in tonight. Like a way different feeling. And if you ever felt like, and people are probably listening, like, I don't, okay, it's a cool story, but imagine being in a place where like you feel completely unstable, not knowing what's going on, like a leaf in the wind. Like that was the first 14 years of my life. And so if you've ever had that feeling, extrapolate that over a lot of years and it being the developmental years. So that's kind of like my life was early on. And then I got adopted at 14. And I was like, I got to find out how to be something like better and different. And so I was like, I'm going to try football. At the same time, my mom got diagnosed with MS, which is an autoimmune disease. And so my adoptive mom is sick. My brother was off to the military. So like my anchor is gone. And I'm like, I'm going to try this football thing because I really wanted to figure out, like, could I do something? And I tried it. And when you try something at first, and you guys, if you can attest to this, like you try something, you typically suck in the beginning. Like when we both started doing videos, we're both like, I'm going to hit record. We're going to see if it works. And then one of two things happens. You take one of two directions. One is I feel this pain and I'm met with the feeling of like I suck. And that pain makes me either walk away and say, it's not for me, or I really want to do it. Let me go back and keep enduring the pain to make it less than, to get the skill set to be great at that thing. And in the beginning for football, I did what a lot of people do. I was like, I'm not going to do this. This sucks. This feels bad. I don't want to experience the fact that I suck and the pain with that. So I checked out. And in foster care, like I was set up statistically for nothing. I don't know if anybody knows, but in like foster care system, 75% of the inmates in American prisons are former foster kids. 50% of the homeless population in America have spent time in foster care. Like we age out, we just disappear. Like less than 1% of foster kids graduate from college or uni. And so really what it boiled down to is like I was set up for nothing. And then I was in this class and this one girl, man, who had no idea I was in the room, like paying attention to her. I don't even know who she was. She gave me this amazing gift. And here's the gift. And if you would get this gift in life, people, use it. The gift she gave me was here's how it worked. Sitting in class, half asleep. She's sitting next to me on a love seat. I'm like sleeping under a black jacket. She's talking to somebody. And out of her mouth, she goes, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And it really isn't a big statement if you think about it. But here's what it was. It was a gift for me because I got to hear my stupid excuse out loud. And it sounded stupid.
Dang.
Right? Like it's like, so when you hear somebody say your thing out loud, or you say out loud to yourself, you can sit in the house and be like, I'm not going to work out today because my shoes are dirty. What? Serious? Like that, like, so we make these excuses, but I got to hear it at 15. And I was like, wow, like I do not want that to be my life. Like that is not, and I just sat with me. It gnawed at me all day. And I went home. I remember looking in the mirror and I looked myself dead in the pupils and I said, Anthony, you're going to be great. I didn't know what it meant. It was just like, you're going to be great, Ant. And I sat with it and I didn't know what to do. But I was like, hey, what if great is me going back and trying that thing that I tried before and gave up on because it was too difficult? And that was the catalyst to me leaning into finally figuring it out, man. Like I went back and I was like, I gotta be the guy. Like I need to have the identity of the football player. Now I didn't know how to do that. So I started running routes, lifting weights, catching footballs, and everything I could. Came back the next year, dude. I was a monster, like a monster, faster, stronger. And it was essentially this, I wasn't going to let myself down. And when you get to a level of doing the work for something so much, like you get to a stance where you won't let anybody or anything take away from what you know you deserve. You fight for yourself in the moments when it matters. So in those moments, like I got to the point where you didn't deserve to beat me, Joe. Like you aren't allowed to. I did too much work. This is mine. You can't have this. So let's go to work. And over, that became how I did things. And I learned in the moment without learning it, this concept that I think everybody needs to grasp. You guys got a pen, write this down, make a note, tattoo it somewhere. It might be a good tattoo for me to get, but here's the statement. What you create creates you. That's the baseline of the work I do, to be totally honest. Look, when I created a stronger body, faster body, more refined body, every single rep, every single day, every single meal, every single rep. I got to the point where I was creating this physical guy, but I was creating this guy inside. It was like, that's who I am. So I protected that guy with my actions. So like when I showed up, like that's just what my ego protected. And we all think ego's a bad thing, but really the same ego I had for football players, the same one I have for being a great dad. Or my wife has for being a great mom, or you have for being a great podcaster, or someone has for being a great coach, or a great content creator, right? When you start creating over time, at first you do suck. And the pain associated is like a 10. It sucks. I don't like this. And it becomes a 9 the next time you face it. And then an 8 the next time you face it. And after a while, it gets to the point where it's like, it goes to 0, but it doesn't go to 0 like I feel comfortable. It goes to joy. I used to hate being exposed to the fact that I sucked at football. And now, damn it, I got football above my head. Like I'm the, you know what I mean? Like there's a whole, and that's what everybody has to work towards. There's more of my story we can unpack, but the reality is when I go to the core root of my work, that's the foundation of what I learned at 15, which was you got to start creating. And the more you create against the pain, against the grain, you'll find that you get to the backside, you get a skill set, you stay in it. The more you create, all of a sudden you create this new you. And you get that Midas touch. That Midas touch, Joe, that's where everything you touch turns to gold because now you've elevated and upgraded how you operate. That's my spiel, man.
Come on, man. I'm vibing on so much of what you're saying. Like that's kind of what we talk about here too. A lot of the inside will always lead to the outside. I don't want to cut short because everything you're saying is awesome. Like, people loving this. Do you want to just tell people what you do exactly at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm a speaker, coach, and author. So I write books. I read a lot of books, and I coach and I speak. So obviously, speaking is minimal right now because nobody's leaving. But the majority of my time is spent behind this. This is my studio office. This is where I do all my work. And so what I do is I created a process called the shift schematic to actually do what I just talked about. You have to be able to architect your ideal identity and then activate it in the world in a way that allows you to become that, to shift into that. We all have these called identity gaps. There's a gap between who I am and what I have, which could be an okay job and everything, but there's also the person I want to be that has all the things I want. And there's a gap here. It's an identity gap because if you were already this person operating this way, you'd already have those things. So when I come in and say, okay, great. What do we have? 3 steps: see, shift, sustain with. The C phase is you got to figure out what really you need to work on because a lot of people do work. They'll start working away. I'm going to get this and I'm going to take these steps and do this thing. And then you start building and building and building. All of a sudden, you never have the progress. And what you end up finding, it's kind of like climbing a ladder, huffing and puffing, get to the top, and then realize like, oh, the ladder's leaned against the wrong building. I didn't do the right work. So I take it back and say, let's take a look at really what's stopping you. Why are you stuck? What's going in the background? Then let's now architect the identity we want to create, the ideal identity. And we'll talk about if you want the 6 core identity drivers. Once I've got the shift made to the actions, now I can sustain that to thrive, to get more met in life. So that's really how I push. And the shift, the baseline of it is an ideal identity, right? So there's actually levels of the shift. There's design, develop a plan, deploy the identity, come back, debrief, and then repeat. My watch is talking to me because I'm getting all excited. I didn't say anything. Leave me alone. And so you design the identity, like the actions that come in, what you want to be, you develop a plan to take it into action, deploy to the world, and then come back. And that deploy is the hard stuff, like, oh, I suck. But most people will walk away from that moment, never come back for 6 months. But I'm like, no, let's revisit it now because it's fresh. Then let's go ahead and debrief what happened, what worked, what didn't. Let's go back and redesign if we need to, redevelop the plan or keep working the plan, redeploy and keep the ball going. Because now you're creating. And when you
Mm.
creates you, right? But the
Mm.
core base of who we are and how we actually have these 6 core drivers as our identity, think of it as like a Venn diagram. And you have like the bubbles, 3 bubbles, right? So the top bubble's belief, the one that's down next to that, you have what's called thoughts and stories, and you have actions. So certain core beliefs we have about ourselves and the world. Then you have the thoughts that run through your head all day long, that are consistently running like I'm smart, I'm not so smart, whatever it is. Then the actions that you have that you're doing every day. Those 3 are huge, but the overlaps are more powerful. That's where you see it show up in the world. So you have between beliefs and stories and the beliefs and thoughts you have your mindset. So a lot of people think mindset alone is all you gotta, I gotta have a mindset. I gotta have strong beliefs. And they work on one, but not the rest. I know a lot of people with great mindsets
Mm.
who break their lives. I broke my life.
Mm.
I got to college,
Mm.
got the NFL. After the NFL, like 3 years, I came home to the gym. I broke my life, man. My wife and I got a divorce. She had an affair. I lost my family. My business was almost bankrupt multiple times. I got out of shape and I lost my football identity. Major crisis, right? And I dug
Mm.
myself to a hole, and I literally drove off one night, and I sent a text to my friends and family, said, please tell my kids who their father was. Like I was done. Like I almost took my life, genuinely. And I came back from it in this place of like fog for like 3 years. And then I found a way, like I got to reset my system, and I fixed a lot. I grew a lot. I did all the work I needed to be able to then come to the point of crossing the finish line of my wife and I are now back together 4 years strong after 3 years divorced. My kids have a present father. I'm in great shape. My businesses do very well. Like I have a sense of identity past the football, but that happened because I learned to do the shift work I'm talking about. And the
Mm.
mindset, most people think like great mindset will do it. I was a professional football player. I
Mm.
had a phenomenal mindset. So why wasn't I already successful? I didn't have the rest, right? So where you have that, if you have beliefs that are like, I should do this, and you keep questioning yourself, but would I like it? Am I good enough? Should I? Then your mindset's weak and it's difficult to make any kind of progressive movements. Then where actions and thoughts overlap. This is where I think I should do that, but do I actually do it? If you don't do it, you have bad habits. And
Mm.
habits change your life. It's the autopilot that we run on, right? It's the
Mm.
whether or not I'm gonna get this done because I like it or don't like it, it still gets done, right? You have
Mm.
a habit. I have habits of like I got to get up and do work, so I'm still a good father, or I'm
Mm.
a good coach, or whatever it is. So you got a new baby. You got to be a good dad. Great dad habits,
Mm.
right? The
Mm.
one that most people lose out on a focus on, and this one, you guys take nothing. Take this one. You've got to have this good ego. So where your beliefs and your actions overlap is where your ego sits. Because most people think ego is this negative thing, and we already talked about ego is a positive thing. But if I believe I'm supposed to do something, I'm meant to do that thing, and I actionally don't do it, I lose a chip in my shoulder. I feel like, oh, you suck today, man. Like if I miss a workout when I'm supposed to miss a workout, and I go on the coaching calls I do, I lose that chip. Like I don't feel like I'm a guy to talk about it right now. Like I did, but man, I lost a little bit of something. I may not go into a sales conversation and feel whole confidence, or I might not go into the
Mm.
next podcast and feel. And so those little things, whenever you tell yourself, I'm supposed to write that book, I'm
Mm.
supposed to get that workout, I'm supposed to be eating healthy, and you don't, you lose the chip. And then what happens is you don't fight for yourself in the moments you need to. And really, you have to show up for yourself, because that little chip going away is like a little bit of like a lack of love. And so many people have made so many bad decisions that have such a small internal chip on their shoulder, that what happens is, if you think about a person you love, if I love somebody, I show up for that person. Like if I respect them, I show up, I fight. Like it's my wife, like I'll take a bullet, right? If I don't love that person, like, okay, I'm not gonna show up. What do you think happens when your chip gets so small that it's non-existent? You don't have that self-love, the self-pride, so you don't show up for yourself. So when somebody says, hey, you should go for that job, you say, I don't know if I'm capable of doing it. When someone says you should get in shape, like, yeah, but I suck. Why would I even try to get in shape? You should work on your marriage. Yeah, but I'm a horrible person. I never show up. Like it gets smaller and smaller because you didn't show up. And
Mm.
so for me, I step in and I help people. Let's architect all these pieces. What kind of ego do you want to have? What kind of character do you want? What habits do you want to have? What kind of mindset should you have based on the beliefs you need to re-ingrain, the thoughts you need to be affirming to yourself daily, and what actions are living in that space? And when you operate at a different level and those flow, man, life changes. Like genuinely. We all have access nowadays to tools, techniques, all that kind of stuff. It's not the tools and techniques, it's not the system we have here,
Mm.
and the fact that you and I know how to click buttons. It's
Mm.
the technicians on here.
That's right.
What makes this is the person. So you guys listening right now, that I'm loving, you're loving this. It's on you to be the right technician. But here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with anybody. None
Mm.
of us. There's nothing wrong with people. We just haven't upgraded the software.
Mm.
Like there's you got time? Do we have time? I got a cool one. It's a computer based one. And if you have any questions, man, pop in because I'm just excited. I like talking.
We do have time, and I'm loving everything you're saying. The language might be slightly different to things we cover, but it's all in here: thoughts, beliefs, actions, all of it. I do want to ask you some things though. We go a little deeper into. I mean, your childhood's crazy. Like you shared some of your story, like as if it was a walk in the park. I mean, there are some people who've been through a quarter of what you've been through, or 10%, and haven't even made it out.
Yeah.
So can we talk to that a little bit? Like, what got you out? How
Yeah.
did you become this guy, and how did you become a footballer?
Well, I think the big thing with all of it is I had to take an unconfident action, multiple. If you there's a cycle of how our brain runs. Like currently all of us are operating in this loop, and they don't realize the loop's going on. It's not something that might happen. This is going on. You already have a certain identity. If I ask Joseph, who are you? Tell me who you are. Is an identity in place. And that leads to certain beliefs that you have. The beliefs you have lead to thoughts that you actually have running in your background because of the beliefs. The beliefs that have thoughts go to action, or sorry, emotions. And these feelings and emotions you have, those drive our actions daily. If I feel confident and happy, I take a good action. If I feel low and slow, I take a not so bold action. And those actions, those create our outcomes in life. Do I make money, lose money, make joy, lose joy, have a relationship? It just gets you outcome. And the outcome creates the environment internally and externally. If I have a crappy outcome internally, I feel like, man, I suck and I beat myself up, right? And I lose that chip. And then externally, I might not have nice things or a nice body or a nice relationship. So my external world sucks. And then environment that we live in, inside that we see ourselves living in outside, that anchors down who we see ourselves to be. And so when you ask, how do I change it? How does somebody step in and change it? What you do is you slip in that space. It's between feelings and actions. Because you can't change all of it. Just change your beliefs now. Change your thoughts now. Like some of those, they kind of can roll, but like the one that you can really step into is like when you take an action, action's what ends suffering. You got to take an action in it, right? So the problem is most people, they're like, yeah, but I don't know how to take the unconfident action. How do I do that? If you've ever got so as a kid, did you ever jump off a cliff into water as a kid? Everybody did, right? Everybody did it. And the first time you look over the edge, you're like, oh, I don't know, man. No. And then you're like, then someone's like, go. You're like, unconfident. I run, jump. I hit it. Water feels great. And then I step out and I'm like, oh, wait, that was cool. And you go do it. Next thing you know, you're doing backflips and front flips and spinning off, right? Because you're fine. And what you did was you went in, you had an unconfident action, you separated the feeling and took the bold action, had a really different outcome, changed the internal environment of confidence. Hey, maybe I am the person that jumps off cliffs. I believe I can do it. Hey, you're dope. Go do that. Yeah, take an action. And now it runs. The same thing applies to all parts of our life. What you have to do in that unconfident action space is activate what I call like your secret self. There's a secret little person inside of us that has that, you can do it. But the problem is the bolder, bigger brain's like, shut up. You don't talk. You don't know. And we never send that person out on the field. And when I say out in the field, like I look at football like this, for me, football is kind of like I'm the player in the game on the field. And my conscious judgment mind is a coach on the sideline, arms crossed, judging and watching. And what happens is we are unfortunately bringing the coach onto the field or forcing the player to stay on the sideline, never getting in the game of life.
I love
and
that.
So what I do is I say, hey, take that secret self player, you coach him, whatever, send him out there, let him, her do whatever they do, coach them when they get back to the sideline. But send them out, let them be free, just because that's the person you need to go and boldly stick their head in there and make the kick, whatever. And when they celebrate and win, you come back as a coach like, hey, high five, great job. I don't know if you could do it, but you did it, right? So just send the secret self out onto the sideline. Get it going.
Yeah. Wow. So then, okay, so you make it to the NFL.
Yeah.
That is a massive deal. I mean, what small percentage of people even make it there?
I don't know,
and
small.
Then you say that, you had a great mindset, but you didn't have these other things. Can we touch on that a little bit? Like, what was your work ethic? How much were you training?
Yeah.
What were your thought patterns?
Well, I think the hard part is you got to realize that gets built up over years. You get adapted to it slowly. I couldn't do a workout I did in the NFL right now. I wouldn't get through the warm up, man. Like those are crazy workouts. But the thought process behind it was I fell in love with the process. I wasn't married always to the outcome. Like when you're married to the outcome, then if you wake up every day and you don't have the outcome, you're measuring yourself against something that's so far away you feel bad every day. And so like I started to fall in love with just the flow, the groove. I loved getting up in the daytime. I love making my meal and eating my meal. I love, getting warmed up for the workout and then having the workout. Then I love recovering after that. I like going to practice. I started to fall in love with the basics. Scratch that. I didn't love going to practice. I actually hated practice, but I fell in love with the little pieces to where when I just focused on that, it was kind of like I'm hiking the mountain without looking up every second and saying, oh man, I'm not at the top yet. I'm not at the top yet. I'm not at the top yet. And I started saying, oh wow, look at this rose. Look at that bush. Look at this little pond here. Look at the fish. And I
Love
just
it.
kept walking and enjoying it. And so it's hard, but it also, you got to take it in strides, slowly adapt to things. And there will be some moments where you have to climb up that big steep hill, but it's not an entire climb all day. But climb the hill, get to the top. And the farther you climb, you'll find that like the only way down is up.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick minute to tell you about our Royal Hybrids group coaching program. Over a year ago, the Lord started speaking to me about a group of people, a tribe that would only get their value, their affirmation, that would only get their identity from who they are in God and nothing else. And from that place, they were going to do great things on the earth. In the last year, we have seen a whole bunch of people jump into our program, solidify themselves in their identity with God, and from that place, actually start to engage their purpose. Fuse Life talks about the 6 trees: your spirit, your soul, your body, and then your relationships, your finances, and your purpose. We have seen a whole bunch of people come through this, get solidified in who they are, and then begin their own projects, whether it's a teen mums project, whether it's a coaching, counseling business, or a painting business, publishing your children's book, publishing a puzzle book. We have seen people do all of these kind of things, and we just know that this is just the beginning. So you want to go to www.fusebornformore.com/Royal Hybrids, or just click the link in the caption and make sure to check out what we are doing. We would love to have you as part of our tribe. Now, back to the podcast.
Like once you're so deep in, I hiked a mountain called Pikes Peak in Colorado a few years back. And we got to this point where they were like, hey, if you want to go down, you got to go down now. Because if you don't go down now, the only way out is up. And I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep going. And it was like another 3 miles up this mountain. And I got like a mile in. I'm like, can we go down? They're like, the only way down is up at this point. You will take more time going down the mountain than up. So you have to go up now. And I reckon that, or ache in that too, is like when you get into the process of doing things, now eventually you actually fall in love with the point of like the process. But you realize like the only way to get out of this situation is I got to keep going into the situation. Like I'm too deep in. I saw Drake the other day on a thing. They're like, hey, you're so addicted to success in this process. Like, how do you keep that going? He's like, I have sacrificed so much so far. I've sacrificed relationships and having a family and time with my loved ones. I've sacrificed all of it. The only way to make it mean something now is if I actually get the success that I'm supposed to in life. So you got to put work in to get to the point of being forced to put work in.
Wow. I wanted to actually show that photo of you had this photo on your Instagram of your neck during your training, like your peak of your training. I was like, when I saw this picture, I couldn't believe it. Hey, let's see if I can pull that photo up.
If you can, I got it on my phone. It's one of those ones that people look at me and they're like, oh no, you were never like that. The New York
I don't think people would believe that's real.
Oh, it's a big neck guy. It's a big neck.
Let's see if I can find it on here. Find it on here on Facebook. Here we go. I saw it somewhere here just before. So you guys make sure you're following him. I'm going to put all of Anthony's links on here for everything that he's doing. I'm going to put it on here so you can follow everything he's doing.
Where's the big neck photo?
It was up here. Yeah, it was up in one of these
somewhere
quotes in here.
Well, I mean, the thing is also my job, people are like, oh, were you on steroids and supplements? We just lifted every day for like 12 years. When that's your job, it's bound to happen. Most people are like gym rats. They don't grasp. Like if you put time and food into something, you succeed. But if you don't, then it doesn't. Here's the picture. Where's it at? There it goes.
Where is it?
On mine. If you look at my,
you got it. Oh, there you go. Look at that neck.
Muscle bound. I was a big boy back then, man.
Yeah.
Big boy. But that was my that's what my job was though. I was a big guy that ran a whole lot. I was very fast and very big and a different animal, different profession. So now I could be slim and just not have to worry about having to lift those heavy, crazy weights.
But so if we can just pivot a little bit here, and I know you wrote about God in your Insta profile. Yeah. Where does God fit into your life? Like when did he show up in your life, and where does
14,
fate sit in your life?
16. 16 or 17, I think. I'm trying to think of when it was. Oh, no. It was about 18 years old. So I had been introduced to faith whenever like my family was. We were like the Christians on Easter and Christmas kind of people. And I got to this point where I was like taking these trips to go to colleges to look at possibly going and playing college at different schools. And I had a high school girlfriend, my high school sweetheart, my girl, who's my wife now. And I was, traveling these trips, and I go to this trip in Washington State, and this was called my escort, my guy who's driving me around, like my guy. His job is to just take me places, make me have fun. So he took me to this little house party, and he takes me in the back room, and there's a bunch of girls on the line, like on a wall, like 5, 6 girls, and he says, "Pick one." And I was like, this isn't my thing, right? This is not really how I roll. And I got my girlfriend, I'm stuck there, and this guy walks out of a room. His name's Chris Hurd. Now, Chris is a good dude. Chris is a guy that whenever I was going to look at schools, he was the one that got me the trip for Washington State in the first place. Like, he's a good dude. He's like, "Hey, Aunt, want to go somewhere?" Like, the dude doesn't even go to parties. Happen to go to that one. Happen to walk in at that time. Grabs me. I was like, "Yeah, man." He walks me down to the stadium. Leaves the party. Walks me to the stadium. We go to the top of the stadium and watch the state. And he's like, "Hey, man, how's going?" I'm talking about. He says, "How's your faith?" So I'm kind of, family has. He goes, "Well, you're about to go into a world where you're away from your family. There's a lot of things thrown at you, and you can go down a dark hole if you're not having some kind of anchor." He's like, "I'm a man of faith, and I believe that'd be a helpful piece for you to actually have that be a focal point." And so I was like, "Man, it's interesting." He was actually from my same hometown. He's a crosstown rival before he went to college. So I was like, "Man, thanks for that." And I go home. Now on the trip home, I get picked up at the airport, and I drive from the airport back home. Now when I get home or get to the airport, I'm walking out. There's this guy, burgundy van, and this guy was like, kind of like lighter skin, like olive skin. He had like, brown hair like here. Dude looked like Jesus. And I'm not saying that because it sounds good for the story. I promise you, the guy looked like Jesus. And I get in the back seat. The first thing he says is, "Hey, are you saved?" I was like, man, that was actually the first thing that came out of his mouth. I'm like, it's interesting you say that. I just had a conversation with a guy yesterday, and I'm coming from college. This, I'm doing. He goes, "Well, do you mind if I share my testimony with you?" Now he shared his process, his story, his testimony, his experience from literally the airport pickup all the way to my house, which is an hour away. And then it gets to about a block from my house. He says, "Do you mind if I pray with you and accept Jesus Christ in your heart?" I was like, yeah, let's do that. So 2 blocks from my house on Ashley Street, he sits there and he prays, and I accept Jesus Christ into my heart. And it was this thing where like I genuinely I accepted him, and it was a different change for how I thought, how I operate. And so like when I went to college, I had a base, I had stability, I had this sense of like what's right, what's wrong. I was with my high school sweetheart in a long distance relationship. Then she came up to college with me. We've been together ever since. Like, just has been crazy. We had a divorce for 3 years, and that's crazy hiatus. That's probably the farthest I've been from my faith was during that time, different world. But even now, he's the center of our relationship. Like we watch church on Sundays. We're not going to church. We every meal is a prayer. Like we have what's good, what's bad about life. Like when there's craziness, we discuss like what would Jesus do? Like what would this be for our lives? And so that's yeah, he's always been there, man. Because and also at the same time, my life is not an accident. Like there is just so much crazy that I would not in any way, shape, or form of God in here if there wasn't something bigger planned for me. Like that's just whether I truly believe it or don't. Like there are way too many situations in my life where I've had God show up like out of the blue to keep me going. Like I had my gym. When I had my gym, I was almost bankrupt multiple times. There was at least, I think I want to say that was like 8 times in the gym where I needed to the next day somehow make like an extra $2,000. And if I didn't, I would be able to pay the rent or payroll. And I had no, and that's not a typical income. Like we were making, maybe a couple $100 a day at most. And 8 times, I guarantee every time, 8 times that popped up, God provided. Like someone walked in and was like, "I want to pay $2,000 for this." Like, what? I wasn't waiting. I wasn't trying to get to those days, but over like a 6-year period, man, just kept it. It happened. I was like, man, I'm supposed to be doing this. And so stuff like that, my marriage went back together the way it is, like me, having things that like I just missed out on, just missed that could have been detrimental. Like he just always kept me to a certain place. So like what I do now, I know it's not an accident. I know I'm supposed to be doing this because a lot of guys who have gone through what I've gone through, who got to a peak of like NFL, who look like me, they don't do the things, say the things, express the things I do. And I don't say that like I'm great, but I say it in terms of like I believe God gave me a specific pedestal and a heart and a compassion and a mom and experiences and like the wherewithal to be able to see myself for what my faults were and to work on them so that I can take off a wall that most people, men, women have to learn. Like there's certain people that only I can reach because they're not going to listen to the guy who didn't do what they did, right? Foster
Right.
kids listen to me. There's rough, tough dudes, Harley guys who will listen to me because I'm the football play in the NFL, right? There's women who will listen to me because I have a wife that I praise, right? So I have this base of the ability to talk into people's hearts with something to say because I believe God gave me a whole lot to say.
Wow, man, that's that's awesome. And can you touch on a story, maybe one quick story where you're like, man, he saved me, like he saved my butt, not just in terms of money, but was there any times in terms of your life, and also
Yeah.
maybe can we go into a little bit of this 3-year hiatus, like how you ended up at that point? Yesterday I had a guy on the show,
Yeah.
and he was a millionaire, making lots of money, same kind of story as you.
Yeah.
And then he talked about how his intimacy with God started to derail, and it started to show up in all of the areas in his life. You know, can you
Yeah.
touch on
Yeah.
that a little bit?
Yeah, man. So the derailment for me, I guess, that took place. So when we talked about like the relationship, so God showed up and saved me in a lot of situations. So one was the gym was something where I put all my all into it. And it's funny, my wife, she's coming home at this moment. I'm talking about this, but I put all my all into the gym. I was like, the gym's gonna be the thing I gotta build my name on. And then I neglected everything around me, neglected the wife, neglected my kids, and so he took everything from me to the point where like my wife had an affair drove me off the cliff internally. Like I was like, hey, this is ridiculous, and how do I live with this? And so I drove off, man. And it was something where like he put me in a place where it was late enough at night to where like I had to park my car and sit and figure out for the way to go away. And then what it was is he gave me, I believe, gave me a lot of perspectives when I needed them. So when I say I went for my faith, so like I didn't even cuss when I played in the NFL. Like I didn't even nothing, right? And so I got to this point where now I'm out of this, and I'm like, man, if this is what my life is supposed to be, like, why even try? Like this, you're gonna put me into, God. Like I'm just gonna do my own thing. So got divorced, and be honest, like I turned into like kind of like a little mini playboy. Like I had this gym business, and I have time and I got some money, so I'm gonna go and do my thing. And so I just started doing my thing, and it wasn't something where I was proud of it, but it was a filler. Like when you've been with somebody since you were 16 years old, like to then they be lonely. Like I wasn't built for that. I didn't know what to do with that, and I always had this weird connection to women because of the foster system and my mom and like her not being there and me wanting her. It's like a womanly connection to me is really really big, and so like I had this just huge hole, just trying to fill up. And I remember I woke up one day and it was like I had somebody fly out from like Russia or something. She didn't even speak English. And it was like New Year's Day in like 2013, I want to say, or 14. No, it was New Year's Day 2016, sorry. And I just had this wave of shame. Like my kids aren't here. She can't even talk to me. I don't know who this is. And I was like, this is not a life that I want to live. I'd be ashamed if my kids saw me now. I'm ashamed of who I am, and I tucked it all away. And so what I did is I literally cut myself off from all women. I didn't go out. I didn't party for like months, like three at minimum 3 months. And it was at the same time where my wife was going through stuff, and she was navigating her own pitfalls, her own rock bottoms. And then she had her brother, who's not even a man of faith, gave her his book by Joyce Myers. No clue why. And around that same time, like I was like, I got to be a better human, right? I got to figure out why my marriage fell apart. Well, because I was neglecting my family. Hey, love, I got to figure out, why my business was not being, the place it was, because I wasn't putting the effort in. I didn't operate at a certain level. I had to figure out why I wasn't being a present parent. Like, well, I kept making an excuse that, well, I got to work, so my kids got to take a back seat because I got to provide for them, right? All these things that kept popping into life, and so when I realized, like, dude, yeah, no, your wife made a bad mistake, but you were with her, and you're part of a couple that got her to a place where she felt she had to make a decision, right? My parenting, I needed to be a better parent. I was spending more time with other people's kids, training them than my own. Hey, son, it's just weird. They keep walking by at perfect times. That's God, right? So leave it open. So I get to this point now where for now, like I'm just like trying to figure out like, how does this all work? And so I got a really good unpacking of who Anthony was, where his life was, what mattered. And I got this level where like I gave my wife this true forgiveness. I was always shaming her. It's your fault our family fall apart. Your fault.
Wow.
I was like, hey, I messed up, man. Like I had a part in there. Your thing sucked. You did some bad stuff. I'm not taking anything from that. But like I had my role in that. And we were both 16. We got together. We didn't know who we were. Like it was almost bound for that. And then I got to a point where we took a trip. She invited me on a trip. She's like, hey, I got to get away from here. Like she had found God. Joyce Myers, she picked the book up one day in her rock bottom. She read through it. She's like, I'm alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to spend my life. And then she started coming to God, found her own faith. And she had never before, like she was a Catholic, I was a Christian. She was never would go to church with me. And so finally she's like got her own seed. And then I go in this, she said, hey, I want to get away from our town. You mind taking this trip to Costa Rica? We'll get separate rooms for 3 weeks. We'll just get away from it all. I was like, yeah, cool. And I was still like had women I was talking to, you know, like because I was that guy, but not completely. Like, I wasn't intimate. They were like actually like serious conversation relationships now. Cause like I really talk to someone, be a better guy at this point. And so I was coming around, she could see me being a better guy. And then we go away and then we sat and talked. It was the first time we talked without having a lot of loaded conversations of blame and back and forth. And so I, for the first time, took ownership of like, all right, here's my thing. She took ownership, which was weird. So the way I can explain it is I got to meet somebody for the first time that I'd known for like 18 years, 16 years or something, right? And it was a way different feel. And so when we got back, like I had a girl I'd talked to, like, and I was gonna go on a date with her. And the day before my date, like she's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I really want to take a run at this again. Like genuinely, like I think I can be the wife that I was supposed to be. And I think you could be the husband. I want the father of my kids in the house, like a real conversation. She had grown up. The woman I'd always wanted was finally in front of me. And then I go on this date and she ruined the date. It was just a ruined date. I was always in my head the whole time thinking about like, what if, right? And then I got back and the conversation started and then it was like, all right, let's genuinely try. And so I don't know what you would call that except for God showing up for both of us at certain times that we needed it to bring us back together to create what we've created.
Man, that's a cool story. That's powerful.
I got a whole lot of weird stories, man. A whole lot of them.
These are, I think these are really good stories, deep stories. These people need to hear stuff like this, you know, because what you're talking about is massive because two people had to overcome something they had to do with the other person. And it's deep. I like it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can touch on this a little bit, the challenge of being a husband, being a father, and growing a business. I mean, you've done a lot in the last 3 to 4 years. You're so busy, international, travel. Can you touch on that a little bit? How do you balance this? How does a man understand this, you know?
Yeah, you don't balance it. You don't even try. You just try to go at whatever pace you go. It sounds weird. You hear that? Like, it's like, how do you balance stuff, right? What I do 100% is I say, all right, what are the things that I can do that keep me at the speed that I go? And if anything starts to slow me down, I take it off my plate. I put it out till later. We got a lot of ideas in our head. Everybody thinks they have to sit in your head. You got to do them all right now. Give yourself some grace, man. Push things off. So I take certain things. I'm like, what can I do right now in this time frame? And when they're all there, I'm like, okay, cool. And then if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it goes to future portions. And I space it out. And that's realistically how I operate. But the biggest thing is I'm ruthless with my time. Like ruthless. Like I'm sitting there, my plan is always with me. Like every single hour of my day is dialed in and planned out up to 4 weeks. You can go 4 weeks out and this thing is still filled in. It's always here. It's all for, I always have this thing dialed in because if I don't have it for the weeks it needs to go out, I lose track. So like I always go, here's my next 4 weeks. And when I eat a week, I lead a week. So eat it, lead it. And that's how I have to do it. And so what happens is things that I have projects that are on my plate now that aren't pushed off too far. Those things get deconstructed into the amount of hours and the hours get infused into my day. And then when the fuse is in my day, now I can go to work. And then I focus on this because here's the problem. Most people, when they're with their family, are still with work here.
That's right.
They're not family here. The reason they're still there is because they don't know when this is all going to get done. When are they going to get done? When can I? Well, man, so it's all in the air. And then when I do work on, say, project 1, I'm still working in my head on project 2, 3, 4, 5 because I don't know when it's going to get done. When I dump it all into my calendar, I know when it's going to be done. It comes out of here. If I'm working on that, I work on that. If I'm playing a game with my family, smashing them in some hoops, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I'm there, right? And so that's really for me the focal point is like I organize, I deconstruct, I'm tactical and ruthless with my time.
Man, I love that. That was a nugget right there. Hopefully you took that nugget.
Steal it.
I'm big on I teach some of our clients this thing called the baseline of success where they take care of themselves at spirit, soul, body, heart level every day. What is something that you do in terms of peak performance? You're a performance guy, you're a progress guy.
Yeah.
What is something that you do, maybe a morning routine, something that you make sure you're relentless with?
Yeah, so I'm very big on setting the physical environment. So when I get up in the morning, I get up before everybody else does, usually around like 6 or 7. And I get up in the morning, depends on how, like right now, everybody's up till 2 in the damn morning. It's driving me insane. So like I'm in bed later than I like to be. I'm usually up at like 5:30, 5:50. But anyway, so I get up in the morning and then I catch a workout if it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Tuesday and Thursday. When I get back from the workout, I do the same thing, which is I come in, I have something called mud water, I do my tea, have some little mini breakfast. I'll read. I do like my speed reading stuff. I'll read a book for like 15 minutes. And then after the book reading, if I have some emails, I'll get into my emails real quick. Then I get into creative work. I try to get a couple emails done, but I want to go to creative work before like 10, 11, because after that, I'm useless. Like, I am not a guy you want working on anything creative at the back end of the day. I'm like mush brain. So I get everything done up until, 11, 10, 11. And it's like, then I'm into work. Clients come in, I have conversations that pop in. And the next thing I know, I'm building, building, building. And then by about 4 o'clock, I cut it off and I do family work. But the thing is, in between there is not a bunch of wasted time. If I need to get something done, it got to get done. And I'm also able to, if somebody asks, hey, can you do this? I'm able to say, no, I can't. Well, why can't you? I got other things I'm working on. I got this, and this got to be done. Now I can fit you in here. Yeah, but it's got to be done earlier. Can't do it. Sorry. Because what happens is if I've said something, what's up, Joe Seeley? If I say yes to something right now that wasn't in the plan, it now has me have to say no to something that I already said yes to. If I said yes to my reading or yes to my workout, yes to my date day with my wife, my dad day with my kids, if I said yes to that and you need me to do this new thing and there's no space for it, I have to say no to something else that's in my heart to move the needle on. So I'm going to tell you no for this, but I'll say yes to later. And if later is not good enough for you, then I'm sorry, but we're not going to operate right now. This is how it works.
Yeah. Man, so you touch on a couple of really important things, because some people aren't going to like you after you do that. They're not going to,
okay.
you're going to lose some relationships. Can you?
Yeah, everybody loves Jesus. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Everybody can't like you.
Yeah.
Everybody can't like you. That is
Can you speak to that quickly? Like, so what happens when some of your experiences where someone's like, you know what, Anthony, you're like, you've changed, like you're becoming like this big shot guy. You got no time for me. Da, da, da. I'm sure someone said that to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I also have very good boundaries. I have what I call bulletproof boundaries. I set very structurally. You have to train people on how to interact with you. So, for example, there's some people that, like, if you're not a client and you're just a person online, I'll get online and I'll see your message, but I'll purposely not open it for a couple hours. I need to train you that I'm not the fast responder. Whereas people that come on board, you'd be surprised at people I message like, how do you get back to me so fast? I'm like, well, that's the bubble of how I want you to be trained and how I can operate. And I can, but I can only do it because I'm not doing that for everybody. Family has a bubble. There's certain times I work. I tell people, I communicate, I'm available here and here. If it's outside of that, I might get to you fast. I might not get to you till the next morning. But if you're in this bubble, I'll be able to get back. And if I'm in a client call, I'll let you know. But they know most of the time my client calls are, right? So people get trained on how I operate. And therefore, if people come in and say you changed, like, I didn't change. That's how I've always been. And I also have a really tight bubble of people I work with. I like in terms of family and in terms of like clients and also in terms of friends. So I have a really tight crew of friends. The majority I've known since 4th grade. And they know my heart. So if they message me and I don't get back all day, they know I'm doing something. They're not going to be mad that I didn't. And then I have like my buddies. I'll message my buddy Jason, my best friend in the world, something, and I won't get a message back for like 2 days. But I know his heart. You know what I mean? Like I know he's got life going on too. So it's a matter of people, and then that's how I flow. So and I don't have a lot of extra friends that come in. There's no new friends, like Drake says, right? So I have colleagues and things I add to, but I also don't have a lot of new friends. That's okay though. It's not a bad thing. And because if I give too much there, I can't give what I want to the world. And I feel the world needs more of me than me tucked away having private conversations all day.
Totally. Man, I love that. So obviously relationships are important to you, and you mentioned dad day and you mentioned date day or date night. Like, can you talk to that a little bit? How important that is, how often you do it? And
date day is well, right now it's every day apparently. Everybody's here all the time. But typically date day is Thursday from 8 to 10 in the morning with my wife. So kids go to school, we catch breakfast, we hang out, we get massage, whatever she wants to do. It's like just private time for us. My son and I, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the mornings, we go to the gym at 5:50 till 7. So that's our time. We get 3 hours a week. And my twins, they have dad days. So Tuesday at 3 o'clock is my dad day with my daughter. And then Wednesday at 2 o'clock is dad day with my son. So we do whatever they want for an hour. We play games or something where I'm off of everything and just with them.
Wow. This is so cool. I love it.
Simple, easy.
Yeah. And everything you're talking about just on the other side of just the business side is awesome, I think.
It's the weaving of a life, man. This is now what I'm telling everybody, what you guys aren't grasping. I don't care how long you've been on. This, if you're noticing, this is how I operate. These are things that people are like, what do you really do, Ant? This is what I do. This is how I operate the tick I do. There's also education, execution, reach outs, conversations. But this is what allows me to have a successful business, a successful marriage, successful health, relationship with my kids, good friendships. I can do these. But this isn't something where you can like bullet point on a list and be like, all right, I'm going to get it done someday.
That's
Like
right.
I teach how to do this because also in the back end is also strategies. There's
Mm.
also very specific things I have to do strategically to learn copy or learn web development, or learn how to talk and speak. I got to learn these things and then I got to be able to put them into action. Those are all certain ways to operate. So like the magic of what I do is not magic to me. It's like I call it pinky finger power. I'm
Mm.
just teaching people the things that I do and I'm consistently pressing myself towards, and it helps them shift everything, shifts their identity, and they change their lives.
Yeah. Amazing. I was looking back at some of your older stuff. I don't know what year that was, but some of
Mhm.
the way you were speaking, one of the things is in Grind We Trust. You had this T-shirt.
Yeah, I got it.
I was
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was looking at this journey, and it's very clear that there's been an
Yeah.
evolution. There's been an evolution in your messaging. There's been an evolution in the subjects that you're hitting. Can you talk to that, the evolution? Because I think a lot of people, like you kind of mentioned before, get so outcome focused that they don't even
Yeah.
enjoy the journey and they don't adapt or flow or shift,
No.
like you say.
What's the whole thing? It's shift. And I'm going to leave you with this because I do got to hop off. I got a call with a speaking client here in a moment. So I think of it kind of like this: is we're all like these computers. And I talked about it previously, but listen to this concept. And we have to end on this. I do got to get off.
That's all good.
We're all like hardware, and we have the software we talked about. But think about like a computer. We have these programs on a computer, and every once in a while, an update comes in. It says, "Ping, do you want to update your computer?" And the thought of me having to step back from the computer and be like, "Oh, wait for like 30 minutes and get this thing," I don't want to do that. So I'm like, snooze, and I keep snoozing it, right? Then eventually, like I keep going through life, and then it pops up, and then snooze. And then all of a sudden, like I can't get my browser to work, and then I can't get my editing software to stop crashing, and my Microsoft Word keeps not saving, and it's like all these programs are going crazy. And I'm like, I'll just open in safe mode real quick and get this thing working real fast. But then you cut off functions of the programs, and eventually you get that spinning wheel of death. And it's just like, oh, so you're forced to have to upgrade the computer to get things moving, right? And then you sit back, you wait the time, it updates. Now it comes back faster, smoother. Programs pop up, bang. You're like, yeah, I just had to take the time to update it. And so for me, like all the evolution you're seeing was me doing this. As a human being, we get the updates. The programs are that we're having around us. It's your relationships, it's your career, it's education, your trips, your success. Those are the programs. And if you keep getting the pop-up like, hey, honey, you got to spend more time on date days with me. And you're like, ah, snooze, I don't want to do that. Hey,
Mm.
the kids want you to play games. Ah, snooze, I don't want to do that. Hey, catch your workout. Ah, snooze, I don't want to do that. Eat healthier. Snooze, I don't want to do that. Right?
Mm.
These all keep getting popped. All of a sudden, it's like the programs crash around you. You try to open in safe mode, cut everybody off, just focus on you, but you're losing the power of the functions and programs you can have, the power of relationships or insight or coaches. So eventually you do have to step out of your life like I did. Stepped out of my life. I was like, this was broken. When I cut women off, like this was broken. Let me take the time to update it all. And it just as painstaking as a computer was my life. Updated, it got better. Then I could re-enter my life and it was smoother. Too many people are operating with like the new hardware of the body every day, but like they got Windows 95 in the background. So no wonder everything's breaking.
Yeah.
So you ask the evolution, I just when the updates come in,
You
I
take
hit go. What do I got to learn from the business? Where do I got to pivot? How do I got to keep going in this direction? What do I got to learn? What do I got to apply? That sucked. Do it again. That sucked. Do it again. That sucked. Do it. Oh, you got better now, right? That's the updates. And so when the evolution took place, essentially just me saying, all right, let me go ahead and consistently when they pop up, click that, not snooze it and go to work on it.
Mm. Love it. Love the analogy and the effectiveness of the simple truths. Man, I know you're really, really busy, and I don't know if you have one last line of a wisdom bomb or a
I
quote or
do,
something that's
if you
real
want
to you
one.
in this season. Yeah, man, drop it.
Man, the thing everybody asks, like, what's your last message? I always tell them this. I always say you got to own your shift, and own your shift is simple. It's a start of it. You have to own your shift so you can get shift started and make shift happen, right? But the first part's own your shift. And the way I look at it is very, very basic. I have to look at the three words individually. You have to own that there is something you got to work on. If you don't own it, you will never give yourself permission to actually take a step and work on it. So own that there's a problem. Then I don't care who did it, what happened, find your place in it because it's your work you got to do. I can't change your life. I can't hire someone to fix my marriage. Like you could try, but I got to do the work at some point in time.
Yeah.
It's a problem. You're going to have to do work to fix it. The last piece is shift. I know a lot of people who have been told there's a problem. They know it. They know it's them, but they're like, I don't want to work on it. That's just who I am. No. Shift. The shift is to do the work. So if I step in and say, I'm going to shift perspectives, beliefs, mindset, thoughts, habits, ego, character, I can shift who I am at the core and I can make my life different. So it's own your shift. All three of those together, you can make shift happen in your life.
Come on, man. I love it. Where can people find you? Is there any specific place you want me to send them to? Or
I'm
they
right
just
here.
Google
I
you,
never
right?
leave. No, Facebook and Instagram at Anthony Trucks for both of them. Can't miss them.
Awesome. Easy. Well, guys, I know you got tremendous value. And Anthony, I just want to say I appreciate you, who you are,
Very
what you
welcome.
carry, everything that you're doing, because I'm all about the fullness of life. That's why we fuse life. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for your time. And
very
I will
welcome.
be in touch with you. So take care. Thank you guys
All
for
right.
joining us. Have an
Thank
awesome
you guys.
day.
Appreciate you,
Connect with
Joe.
Anthony.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Bless you, man. See ya.
Faith and patience. Faith and patience. Patience means allow it to happen. Stay the same. Stay persistent. Keep going. Faith, know that it can happen at any moment. Get excited because it can happen at any moment. You were so close. Don't quit now. Keep pushing. You got this.